Hello everyone, this is your friend Shinobi Nexus 2.0. Welcome back to the channel. Enjoy the fanfic. And let's begin. What if Naruto was trained by Danzo in secret, and his sealed power was finally unleashed? Part 3. Kurenai was gnashing her teeth after watching Naruto's fight with Hinata. He tore her down, goaded her into a fight and then dissected her and kept a straight face about it the whole time. I'm going to kill that brat when this is over. Tsunade glared back at her. Be quiet Kurenai and be professional. It was a fight. Mind games are supposed to be just another tool that shinobi use. This isn't a primary school where everyone is everyone's friend and you can hold her hand the entire time. You were the ones that were so sure he wouldn't get this far. Not bad for a dead last, huh? Asuma looked at Tsunade. You sure must like that kid, huh, Hokage-sama? Tsunade smirked at him. Why wouldn't I? That's one tough brat down there. Unlike the majority of your kids, he has the right idea on what a shinobi is supposed to do. He's loyal, and he's actually pretty pleasant if you didn't piss him off at you. Oh wait, none of you know anyone that ever tried talking to him seriously before. Tsunade laughed slightly. I have half a mind to promote him to Junin after this. He's already got Chunin. Guy walked up. Tsunade-sama, I admit, Naruto-kun's flames of youth burn brighter than previously advertised, but are you sure? Junin is a whole other league, especially for a child. Tsunade looked at Guy with a smirk. Well, he's still got 3 fights left. He'll show you just what league he's in. I think I'll give him some time as a Chunin first. He won't get anything less than that though. I don't think any of the remaining genin can even touch him. Kakashi chimed in. He still hasn't fought Sasuke yet, Tsunade-sama. Things can change in the blink of an eye, you know. Tsunade got a predatory look in her eye. So Kakashi, sounds like you still don't think much about our little blonde Gaki out there. How about a little wager? Kakashi I smiled. Name your terms. Tsunade's grin got wider. Oh, this one might entertain you quite a bit, and I wouldn't really call it a wager, more of a request of sorts. In the crowd, the recently released Sand siblings were in attendance, stopping off to watch the event going on in the stadium before returning to their home. Their time as POWs now over. Taking their seats, they were curious as to what was going on. Kankuro noticed Gaara watching down on the field intently. Looking down there himself, he saw Naruto standing alone with Anko down in the center. Isn't that the kid that caught us? Temari squinted before widening her eyes in surprise. It is. What is he doing here? Is this all about him? A disgruntled fan snorted. That demon brat is taking on a bunch of the prominent genin in this village. The poor kids, that demon is slaughtering them out there. Gaara blinked and locked eyes with the man. So Uzumaki is killing his genin opponents in the ring. The man flinched at Gaara's gaze and monotone speaking voice. No, not really. But he's running right through them all. I knew he was hiding something for all these years. Temari and Kankuro looked confused. Temari voiced their question. Why does this place despise the kid so much? Gaara simply looked at her and back out into the arena. He is like me. Both Temari and Kankuro was shocked. Like Gaara, he has a demon in him too. Why hasn't he ended up the same way that Gaara did then? These people hate him, not fear him, so he couldn't be killing them. Naruto yawned loudly back in the stadium. He had been here for over 4 hours and had not been even close to pushed yet. This was more of a light spar to him than anything else, all things considered. Hell, it wasn't even a spar. During a spar you actually get hit. Naruto shut his mouth from his miv yawn and smacked his lips. I'm bored, Anko-san, this is boring. I'm tired of beating up on these kids already. Do you think I got my point across yet? Anko smirked at him. Now Gaki, you still have 3 fights left, so make them entertaining, okay? And what did I tell you to call me again? Naruto rolled his eyes and spoke in monotone. Anko-chan. Or. Naruto sighed tiredly. Anko-sama. Anko smiled sweetly at him. Good boy, I knew you could do it. Look alive, kid. Next victim up. At Anko's behest, Naruto found Neji making his way into the arena with his usual gait. Naruto and Neji faced each other down and stared at each other intensely. Neji smirked at the blonde. One more time. Naruto chuckled. One more time. Anko licked her lips in anticipation of the coming battle, the 8th match. Naruto Uzumaki vs. Neji Hyuga, Hajime. Neji activated his Byakugan and sprung at him suddenly, beginning striking at Naruto rapidly. Naruto didn't feel like risking his chakra by blocking this time, so he opted to simply dodge and put some distance between himself and the Hyuga prodigy. This was easier said than done, however, as Neji was dogged in his pursuit, and any attempts to move without properly breaking Neji's chain of combinations could result in some painful Hyuga jabs in his near future. Naruto shot out a punch at the same time Neji went for a finger jab. Neji diverted his strike over Naruto's fist and dipped it in time to hit him in the wrist. Naruto saw this as his opportunity to move and jumped back, shaking his wrist out to get the feeling back into it. Neji kept his focus solely on Naruto, and easily realizing the threat that any time Naruto could have to think and plan was bad, rushed back in. Naruto formed a cage bunshin and kawarimied with it in time for Neji to hit a palm strike to the bunshin's chest, destroying it and allowing Naruto ample breathing room to back away. Neji set himself in his ready stance and let out a breath. I will defeat you this time, Naruto. I am not taking you lightly this time around, you have my full attention. Naruto pulled the sword from his back. That's nice, but you can pay me all the attention that you want. You still won't beat me. I'm not the same one-dimensional guy that I was at the Chunin exams. He set himself down and ran at Neji. Neji began ducking and dodging Naruto's slashes. Naruto sheathed his sword suddenly following one of his slashes and grabbed Neji by his ponytail that was flailing about in the melee. With a malicious smirk on his face, he jerked around and tossed Neji over his shoulder, slamming him hard to the ground by his hair. Neji held his scalp on the ground while Anko cackled in the background. That ripped a few out by the roots, didn't it? Neji rubbed his head as he stood up. That wasn't very honorable, Naruto. Naruto shrugged. We're ninja, honor is for samurai and dead men. I'd rather be an ignoble winner than an honorable loser. Neji slipped back into his stance. That may be, but you are in range of my field of divination. A sigh came from Naruto's mouth. Neji dashed in and began his alt, Hake, 2 palms. Naruto dodged the first 2 strikes. Neji kept going, 4 palms. Naruto kept dodging as Neji picked up the pace, 8 palms. 16 palms. 32 palms. Naruto kept narrowly keeping out of reach of the rapid-fire strikes, 64 palms. Naruto's eyes widened as he saw that Neji wasn't stopping his alt. The blistering speed of his hands had Naruto actually worrying about getting hit. Finally Neji clipped him and began tagging him with shots. Hake Hyaku Naijuahachi Sho, 8 trigrams 128 palms. Naruto was knocked to the ground as Neji stood straight up looking down on him. Asuma let out a breath that he didn't know he was holding. Finally, someone beat the kid. It took long enough though, I kind of thought he was going to finish there for a minute. Kurenai shook her head. You forgot, didn't you? Kakashi and Asuma looked at her curiously and she groaned. People really don't pay attention to him, do they? This already happened last time. And last time Neji hit him more than he did this time. Asuma dropped his cigarette while Kakashi still looked puzzled. Neji did something like this the first time they fought. Well, how did he get up to win? Neji turned to speak to Anko. Neji stopped however upon hearing a bored sigh coming from Naruto. Whoopee, more palms. Yay, man, you Hyugas are seriously a bunch of one-trick ponies. Neji turned to see a dry expression on Naruto's face. What are you saying, Naruto? You should be beaten after that. Naruto smirked at him. Deja vu, isn't it? Neji's eyes widened as the same malicious feeling from last time as Naruto kipped back up to his feet, just as quickly the feeling faded. And let out a vulpine smirk. You barely hit me. I'd say out of 128 strikes you hit me maybe 20 or so times. Last time you hit all 64 of your other technique and I shook it off. I'm immune to your Jiyuken unless you strike for organs or something, and even then it had better be a kill shot or I'll just keep coming. Neji tensed up. Well then why did you dodge my earlier strikes if you can just take them? When I hit I still had to have disrupted your tenketsu. Naruto nodded. Yes, but you forget, I can just open them back up. I already did. Hurts like hell though, that's why I dodged, those things hurt. Neji was on immediate alert as Naruto charged back in. Luckily Neji performed his Kaden prior to Naruto reaching him. Naruto was thrown back and scoffed, you want to try that again? As he drew the sword from his back Neji prepared for another rotation. Naruto dashed in as Neji began to spin. Naruto channeled wind chakra into the blade of his sword and split right through Neji's shell of chakra, bursting out the other side. Neji stood still for a moment before dropping to the ground as blood shot from the wounds that appeared on his chest and back. Naruto ignored the outraged cries of the people. Ultimate defense my. Naruto walked over to Neji and placed the blade by his throat. Neji looked up at him with difficulty. How? Naruto looked down at him. Don't worry about it. Sleep. Naruto cracked Neji with the blunt side of his ninjutsu, knocking him out to end the fight. Anko walked over and called for the medics while Naruto walked over to a gray area to wipe off his sword. Shusa, Naruto Uzumaki. Asuma was clutching the guard rail tightly. That was wind chakra. How could a genin possibly know elemental manipulation to that kind of extent? That's an elite level skill. Naruto turned to see Choji making his way out onto the field. Choji unwarily stood across from him and got his first eye full of Naruto's combat stare. He felt like he was drowning in the ocean as he looked into Naruto's eyes that resembled the coldness of an iceberg. Choji bit his lip and steeled himself. He was no fool, he had seen what had gone on in all of the other matches. He knew he had no chance against Naruto. If he was strong enough to fight off Shikamaru's Kajimane no Jutsu, he knew he couldn't match up against him because his strength was really all that he had over most genin. Naruto was faster, stronger, and had too many ways to beat him. But he wasn't going to walk away from the fight just because he knew he would lose. Worst case scenario, Naruto knocks him out and he spends a few hours looking up at a hospital ceiling until his parents come and get him. He knew Naruto wouldn't hurt him unnecessarily, so he could more or less place this in a category similar to sparring with his father. He knew he wouldn't win, but that was no reason not to try his best. Choji gulped and motioned to Anko that he was ready. Anko took her spot between them. The ninth match, Naruto Uzumaki vs. Choji Akimichi, Hajime. Baika no Jutsu, multi-size jutsu. Anko had to jump out of the way as Choji immediately went straight into his clan jutsu list. As quickly as he could he tucked his head, arms, and legs into his body. Nikuden Sensha, human bullet tank. His MIV form began its rollout towards Naruto, who was swiftly on the defensive to avoid being squashed by the chubby ninja. Despite being in the shape of a MIV ball, Choji was quite mobile in that form, and was far faster than he was outside of it. Naruto found that the longer Choji rolled, the more momentum he picked up. Naruto pumped chakra into his legs to gain the necessary distance to warrant turning around to face Choji. Naruto channeled wind chakra to his fists and thrusted them out linked together. Fujin Seiken, wind release, divine fist of the wind god. The force of the wind jutsu hitting the meat tank sent the rotund ninja flying backwards until he bounced off one of the stone walls lining the arena. Choji came rolling right back at Naruto, who simply stood right in his path and waited for him. When he got close enough, Naruto his leg back and gave Choji a chakra-enhanced kick that sent him flying once more, only into the stands this time. Shoji released the jutsu to avoid crushing the spectators and ended up crashing into the stairs and rolling down them until he finally came to a stop at the bottom. After a few minutes of him trying to regain his senses, Shoji shakily stood up and faced Naruto, wincing with some blood coming from his lips. "You're strong, Naruto. I know I can't win here." Naruto nodded, "But the important thing is that you tried. Do you want to continue?" Shoji looked up in the stands to his father. Shoza knew what Shoji was asking him and sat in contemplation before silently shaking his head. Shoji turned back to Naruto and sighed, "I wish I could. But there's only one way that I can even hope to hang with you, and my dad really doesn't want me trying it. It's really dangerous. I surrender." Anko nodded and pointed to Naruto. "Shusa, Naruto Uzumaki." Naruto sighed, "I kind of wanted to see what you could do, Choji. You have some serious potential. I can only imagine what you had up your sleeve, but I understand. Maybe I'll get to see it one day." Shoji held his ribs and smiled at Naruto before heading back to the waiting area. Naruto grinned and looked up at the waiting area where the others were watching from. Looking at all of the Junin, he held up all 10 of his fingers and slowly ticked them all down until one thumb was left up before he slowly dragged it across his throat. Guy was marveling at the sheer raw power that Naruto had just shown against Shoji. He stopped him with a kick. Just a kick, nothing more. That's incredible. I wouldn't even attempt something like that. Tsunade smiled at Naruto and looked back at her subordinates. Last chance. Sasuke has to win or you all know what will happen. Asuma shrugged. Yeah, we do, but I still don't see how that could be a punishment for losing a bet. Tsunade chuckled. Okay, just keep with that line of thought. Anko noticed the crowd beginning to buzz, mostly over how the last Uchiha would wipe the floor with the demon. Naruto simply stood calmly and waited for the fight to come. Anko really had taken a liking to the kid over the course of the day. He was entertaining to her, whether intentional or not, and he didn't act much like his age. She also realized that he fought like a professional. She definitely had to seek him out for a spar or two after this was all over. Anko nudged him to get his attention. Last one, Gaki. How are you going to handle this one? Naruto shifted his eyes to her. The same way I handled the rest of them, I'm going to kick his. Anko smirked. What? You don't think the Uchiha will pose a challenge to you? She spoke in a sarcastic tone. You think the almighty Sharingan isn't enough for him to win? Naruto chuckled. Nope. Hell, I don't think it'll even help at all here. He can't copy anything I can do. I don't need hand seals to make Kage Bunshin, even if he had the hand seals for my Raiden. Denkai branch moves, he still doesn't have the ones for Raiden. Denkai in the first place, so they're useless, and my Fuden Jutsu don't need hand seals either. He can't copy anything I'm actually willing to show here. Finally, Dobi. Naruto noticed Sasuke walking up to him. This Sasuke didn't just have his air of superiority over him, he had a tinge of excitement rolling off of him. He was spoiling for this fight. I can finally prove once and for all that I'm better than you. Get ready to lose. Naruto had his arms crossed. If you were really strong, then you wouldn't have to prove anything to anyone. I'm just doing this for my career. If I don't show all of these idiots that I'm talented, I'll never get a promotion. Naruto looked to Anko, who moved between them. She turned towards the crowd. The 10th and final match. Naruto Uzumaki vs. Sasuke Uchiha. The crowd roared for Sasuke as a smug smirk came onto his face. Looking at Naruto, he flashed the famous eyes of the Sharingan, making the crowd roar even louder. Anko rolled her eyes. Show off, Hajime. Sasuke dashed in, remembering how poor Naruto had been at taijutsu all the times that Kakashi had them spar in the past. Apparently he hadn't been paying much attention to the happenings of the day too much. Naruto slapped his initial punch aside and grabbed onto his ankle to pull him forward roughly before hitting him with a vicious clothesline to the throat. Sasuke hit the ground hard, holding his throat and coughing. Naruto walked around him slowly and let him get his breath. You know, Uchiha, part of me is telling me to just knock you flat on your, get my promotion, go home, and sleep until later disturbed. A feral grin spread over his face, however, but it's a whisper compared to the part of me that's screaming to flat out humiliate you in front of all these people. So get up, because this is a long trail you're taking, Uchiha, and this is just the first turn, bitch. The Sand siblings were getting pretty fed up with how the crowd was treating Naruto. The demon just hit the Uchiha. There's no way Uchiha-sama can lose to something like that. It was luck. This entire thing has all been luck. Temari asked a man nearby, how many fights have there been so far? The man kept his eyes on the current battle. There have been 9 so far. The brat beat everyone that was put in front of him. None of them have even been able to touch him. Temari watched Sasuke shakily pick himself up off of the ground. That isn't the same kid screaming all the time from the exams. Kankuro nodded. What happened? I wouldn't have even considered him a threat until he ended up beating us in the woods. Sasuke, just now getting his breathing back to normal, stood and glared at Naruto. How did you hit me so easily? You were never this good before. Naruto set back into a ready stance. Well, this isn't before, is it? You can't hit me fighting the way you do. Trying to beat me with taijutsu would be like you trying to fight Kakashi with taijutsu, except I won't be so nice about it. No gimme shots for you to boost your ego. If you try that again, I will be breaking something. Sasuke growled at Naruto. What do you mean, gimme shots? Sasuke rushed right back in his Naruto's side in response and began defending. Face it, Dobi. Those other losers couldn't match up to me. Naruto narrowed his eyes and caught Sasuke's fist in his grip before slamming a fist deep into his body. Sasuke dropped to his knees, spitting out blood and coughing once more. Naruto punted him in the ribs and sent him rolling for a few feet. I meant what I said. When Kakashi trained you during the month before the finals, he said he worked on your taijutsu and speed. How hard did he hit you? What was the hardest that Kakashi hit you? Naruto picked up Sasuke by his collar and smashed him in the face once more. Did he ever hit you so hard that he hurt himself? Did he ever hit you so hard you actually lost consciousness for more than a day? If your answer is no, then you're way more under me than I thought. Naruto held him by his collar as Sasuke struggled to get out. Sasuke managed to reel off a shot that hit Naruto in the face, but all it did was force Naruto to turn his head. Naruto quirked his mouth before headbutting Sasuke in the face, sending him falling to the ground holding his now broken nose. Sasuke looked up to Naruto, blood coming through his finger and tears forming in his eyes. Naruto shot a cold gaze downward. You think you're strong, but you're not as good as you think. You've been led to believe that you're Kami's gift to Konoha, but you're not. You're just another genin with a bloodline, and that doesn't make you special at all. All you had over everyone else was a leg up and an entire village at your back. Sasuke stood back up, glaring with death in his eyes at Naruto, who scoffed at his attempt at killing intent. I'm done talking to you. Let me show you what I mean the hard way. As Naruto finished speaking, Sasuke jumped away, not really wanting to get in close with Naruto again. Sasuke flipped through hand signs and put his fingers to his mouth. Kaden, Gukaku no Jutsu, Fire Release, Grand Fireball Jutsu. The fireball launched at Naruto, who didn't move. The fireball collided with Naruto, much to the approval of the crowd, who up until that point were sitting on their hands. Sasuke smirked at the ruin he had created until the fire cleared and a charred log was left behind, remnants of a kawarimi. Sasuke scanned the immediate area swiftly, preparing his body for any response that it could take. He turned his head as he saw Naruto emerge from the tree in the arena, rushing at him. As he turned to react, he took a sharp blow in one of his blind spots, revealing another Naruto that was currently pummeling him. The first Naruto who had gotten his notice had dispelled while the other Naruto attacked. Sasuke was reeling from the pummeling that was taking place. The Sharingan was once again proven useless against an opponent that was far faster than he was. It actually made it worse. Seeing a punch coming and not being able to defend it chipped away at Sasuke's confidence, but in this case he was seeing entire combinations coming and still ended up taking them. The dull thump of Sasuke hitting the ground again rang out as Naruto burst into smoke. Another Naruto revealed itself standing on top of the wall shaking his right hand out with amusement on his face. Good job Sasuke Tem. You technically beat my Kage Bunshin, though he dispelled because he broke his hand on your face, but hey. Who's keeping score here? The Junin were at the end of their rope. This was just too much. Guy was hunched over the rail, his head arched out towards the battle, a Kage Bunshin, he was doing that kind of damage with just one Kage Bunshin. Tsunade had a stone face on as she watched her genin fight. Now do you see? Did him running through all of your teams get the point across, or do you need more evidence to support his promotion? She faced the Junin seriously. The next time I personally endorse the promotion of one particular ninja, you damn sure better believe without question that there is a damn good reason for it. Kakashi was frozen in place before something ticked in his brain. I need to stop this before this goes too far. Kurenai shook her head at Kakashi. It's a little late for that, isn't it? Kakashi made a move to leave but was blocked by Asuma and Guy. What are you two doing? This can't go on any longer. Asuma sighed in a disinterested fashion. We all watched our own kids get their ass kicked, so you're staying to watch one of yours beat the crap out of the other one. Guy nodded. We all knew the stakes coming into this test, my eternal rival. Take solace in the fact that this isn't a deathmatch. Tsunade raised her voice. Kakashi, stand down. Do not interfere with this fight. Kakashi turned to her. Tsunade-sama, if this doesn't end soon it will escalate. They'll try to kill each other. Tsunade raised an eyebrow. If Naruto tries to kill Sasuke, then Sasuke is dead. If Sasuke tries to kill Naruto, then Sasuke will end up in the hospital. Naruto won't kill him and Sasuke isn't capable of killing him in return. Kakashi made to speak again, but Tsunade held up her hand stalling him. Just watch. What did I miss? They all turned to see Jiraiya standing in the corner. Tsunade frowned at him. How about the whole thing? This is the last fight. Naruto's been tearing through all of these kids. Jiraiya looked out to see Naruto walking slowly down the wall back into the arena. Alright, well at least I got here in time to catch one. Sasuke stood once more as Naruto strode towards him purposefully. Sasuke glared as blood dripped down his face. You aren't better than me. Sasuke launched a set of kunai at Naruto, who just shifted his body out of the way and kept walking. Sasuke smirked as he placed ninja wire into his mouth and pulled back on it. The wire surrounded and bound Naruto. Sasuke grinned maniacally. Kaden, Ryuka no Jut. Before he could finish, Naruto let out an audible sigh and coated his body in wind chakra to sever the wire before continuing his walk towards Sasuke. The Uchiha in question was utterly shocked as his wire dropped limply from his mouth, his opponent still striding over casually. A faint burning on the back of his shoulder was the least of his concerns right now. He had a juggernaut that he couldn't stop coming right for him. Naruto was whistling a jaunty tune with no expression on his face, further unnerving his dark-haired adversary. He was utterly ignoring the look of fear on Sasuke's face on the outside, but on the inside he and the Kyuubi were freaking out in laughter. Keep going, Kit. Just a little bit more. I swear he's about to piss his pants. Naruto kept his poker face on. I know, but what else can I do with him? I already made 2 of his best jutsu look worthless and beat the piss out of him. Unless he's stupid enough to try Chidori, I don't think there's any more to do to him. Oh well, time to knock him out. Naruto's footsteps might as well have been thudding off of the ground for all the good it was doing Sasuke to see him coming. His fight-or-flight mechanism kicked in with a vengeance. What is he? This can't be the same Naruto. Fight him, Sasuke. What? He's been overwhelming me from the start. He's stronger. You have more power than him. Let it out. Show them all your strength. I will. Give me more power. Let your rage take over. He is an obstacle to you. Remove him. Who does he think he is? I'm Sasuke Uchiha. He's a nobody. He's still the same Dobi he's always been. Naruto stopped his walk as he saw a black mark spread across the right half of Sasuke's body. Naruto snorted. That damn seal again. I'm really starting to hate seals. Naruto saw Tsunade signal her Anbu out of the corner of his eye. Ba-chan no. Let me finish this. It's still my fight. Tsunade nodded and gave the signal to her Anbu to back off. Kakashi ran up to her. Tsunade-sama. Stop the fight. Sasuke is giving in to the seal. We have to stop him. Jiraiya put a hand on Kakashi's shoulder and shook his head. Kakashi, that kid has more experience with that seal than anyone else in Konoha except Anko. He knows what he's doing. Just watch and wait. Kakashi looked out nervously at the battle down below. Sensei, what would you have done in this situation? Anko-chan, stop. Naruto noticed Anko moving to restrain Sasuke until he spoke up. Let him get up and fight. Anko looked at Naruto as if he had two heads. Kid, that's Orochimaru's seal. That tainted thing feeds off of his darkness and amplifies his powers. This isn't a regular fight anymore. Naruto nodded. I know, but just stay out of this for me. I can still run circles around this guy, trust me. Anko frowned and looked at Sasuke, who was rising with a sick grin on his face. Alright Gaki, but if it gets out of hand I'm stopping this. Naruto nodded as Anko got out of the way once more. Sasuke laughed in a crazed manner. I'm feeling pretty good right now, Dobi. Let's see you match me now, with my new power. Naruto scratched his head. Well, for me to match you, new power, I'd have to hold back even more than I already am. Naruto let a vicious smirk come onto his face. You know I really hate that seal Tem, I have ever since I first saw it. Sasuke cackled. So you were jealous of my power in the forest when you first saw it? I should have figured so. Naruto chuckled. No, I saw it before that. You see, I was jumped by these 4 holes from Odogakure a long time ago. I was beating them pretty easily at first and then this other guy showed up, and they all had your little demon tattoo too. Anyway, they use it and then they all start taking it to my. It was 5-on-1 mind you, and I barely end up getting away. The last guy to show up, I'll never forget his face, he gave me this scar. Naruto pointed to his right eye. Naruto's eyes turned cold. I can't seem to get my chance to get square with those guys, but you're here, and you have it too, so you'll be a decent substitute for me to vent on. Sasuke snarled and ran at Naruto, speed jacked up to the next level. Naruto had been holding back a bunch, because the second Sasuke turned that seal on and came at him it was like the start of the fight, only cranked up to level 11. Every time Sasuke missed a punch, Naruto made him pay with shots to the body, shots to the face, and thrusts to the throat. Every time Sasuke threw a kick, Naruto battered his legs with elbow blocks or would parry with his fists to Sasuke's shins. Sasuke simply couldn't move fast enough to hit him, and Naruto's counters were so sharp that the Sharingan couldn't even help him. Every single one of Naruto's counters came with the intent to end the fight, and if Sasuke wasn't fighting like something reminiscent of a berserker he probably would have dropped 10 times over by then. Sasuke pulled out a kunai and began swinging at Naruto with intent to kill. The mostly civilian crowd knew nothing about the seal, or about Sasuke's lunacy, and were screaming for Naruto's blood. Naruto simply kept out of reach and stung him repeatedly with counter hooks and blazing kicks to back him off. Naruto finally grabbed him by the wrist holding the kunai and began wearing his out. With one hand occupied he still had one hand free to wail on Sasuke bare-handed and ruthlessly. Naruto's fist bounced off of Sasuke's face with every word he spoke, grunting in effort, "You want my life." Naruto, content with turning Sasuke's face into hamburger, pulled him forward and punched him in the face as hard as he could, sending him rolling backwards awkwardly. "You aren't enough of a shinobi to lick my boots, you spoiled, power borrowing, jutsu thieving piece of shit." Naruto roared at him, "Get up. Get up so I can make you suffer. I hope Orochimaru can feel every second of this whooping I'm giving you because we aren't done yet." Naruto fingered his sword in a manic fashion. "You want to use that seal? You want to make your bed with the traitor? I'm extracting my pound of flesh for it, you stupid bastard." Sasuke stood with an insane gleam in his eye. "Who do you think you are? I'm an Uchiha, you pissant. You will succumb to my power." Sasuke had electricity surging around his hand with the famous chirping noise in full effect. Sasuke began a full-on rush straight at Naruto. "Die damn you. Chidori, 1000 birds." Naruto gave a grin that chilled the heart of even the most hardened shinobi in attendance as he set his sword in a waiting stance. "Come on down, Uchiha. I've got a little friend that wants to meet you. No jutsu necessary, my friend." Sasuke rushed Naruto down and thrusted his arm, a bursting flash of sparks indicating that he made contact, before coming to a stop on the other side of the whiskered blonde, a smirk on his lips. A short wind rolled through the arena as everyone was standing at attention. Naruto stood straight up and swung his sword to the side as he walked away. Sasuke stood still until blood bursted from his right arm like a sprinkler. He fell to the ground clutching the arm that had been turned into cold cuts, seemingly by Naruto's sword. Anko blocked out his wails of anguish and agony as he writhed on the ground. Anko pointed to Naruto for the final time. "Shusa, Naruto Uzumaki." The crowd remained silent as the only sounds going through the stadium were the billowing wind and Sasuke's cries. The medics hustled out double time to staunch the bleeding from what was remaining of Sasuke's arm and carry him to get emergency treatment. Anko caught up to him and saw an uncaring look on his face as he went to sit under the tree. "Hey Anko-chan." Anko jerked her thumb in Sasuke's direction. "A little much, wouldn't you say, Gaki?" Naruto looked at Sasuke being carried off. "Nah, builds character. He's lucky he's still even got that arm." Anko shook her head. "What the hell was that anyway? You beat that jutsu with a sword." Naruto grinned up at her and showed her the bloody sword. "Wind manipulation. I love my element so much, it's so efficient. Wind trumps lightning and his control over Chidori was shit in the first place, so he never had a chance." As all of the genin that had not required hospitalization, the Junin sensei, Jiraiya, and Tsunade made their way over to him. Naruto was currently sitting in the shade while wiping the blade on the GR. Asuma walked up to him first. "How do you know about elemental manipulation? That isn't something that a genin should know. When did you learn it?" Naruto quirked an eyebrow. "If I told you it wouldn't matter because you wouldn't believe me. I can do it. I can control it. End of story." He sheathed the sword back onto his back and sat patiently. Kurenai frowned at him. "You were unnecessarily brutal against your opponents." She crossed her arms under her bosom. "You seriously damaged more than a few of your fellow genin." Naruto glared at her. "It's called efficiency. What kind of Junin are you calling that brutal? I was going easy on them. I could have killed all of them, Sasuke included. As a matter of fact, with the exception of Sasuke and maybe Kiba, I didn't even hurt any of them that badly, so what are you on about?" She glared at him and he gave her one right back, unflinching. He stood up and tried to get around them. "If you're all just going to bitch about how I fought today, then save it. I won. They lost. I owned them all." He turned to the kids close by. "No offense, but come on, you've got to admit it." Kakashi stepped forward. "Naruto, what you did to Sasuke." Naruto was about to open his mouth to bitch Kakashi out until he finished his sentence. "I completely understand. Naruto's eyes widened in surprise as Kakashi put his hand on his head. Chidori is a killing technique. I'm sorry. I made him promise to never use it against a comrade and he tried it against you. You did what you had to in order to defend and win. The fact that you left him alive in the first place shows me you value comrades. Naruto shrugged. I don't really consider Sasuke a friend or anything, but as long as we have the same headband I have a duty to keep him alive. What about the cursed seal? Kakashi's eye widened this time. You know what it is. Naruto nodded. I've had a run-in or two with Orochimaru to remember. He didn't need Kakashi knowing he stole information directly from Odo's base in his years prior. Jiraiya walked up. I need to do some more research on it. I still don't know how to remove it yet. Maybe if I study Sasuke's I can get some new information. Sorry Anko. Anko nodded sadly as Kurenai rubbed her shoulder. By now the crowd was filing out, grumbling disappointedly about how the demon brat destroyed the competition. Naruto snorted. Bastards, they could have at least stayed to hear the results. Tsunade walked over and ruffled Naruto's hair, much to his chagrin. Good job Gaki, you've earned your promotion. I'm sorry, but you can't make the jump straight to Chunin right from Genin. You need experience as a Chunin doing higher grade missions first. Naruto would have complained but he needed to keep his cover. No one needed to know he had experience with elite missions and he couldn't just use that as a bargaining chip for an unnecessary promotion. He was a Chunin now, and that was good enough for now. I understand. So I guess I'll get my best later. Tsunade smiled at him. Good work Gaki. I knew sticking my neck out like that for you was a good bet. Naruto grinned and began walking away from everyone to leave. If you'll excuse me, I haven't been home in a week and I need to get reacquainted with my lumpy mattress. If you need me you know where I'll be. Later. All of the genin that were still conscious shouted words of congratulations to Naruto, who simply waved over his shoulder and shunshined away. Asuma shook his head. Okay, I'm a believer, that kid is scary good. He turned to Tsunade. Okay Tsunade-sama, what are the terms of this agreement you wanted Kakashi for? Tsunade smirked. Follow me to the Hokage Tower and we'll discuss the terms. You can all come, you might find it interesting to say the least. It had been roughly 3 days since Naruto's performance at the stadium against all of the genin. Tsunade let him be for the time being because he deserved the rest. That was one reason. The other reason was that she wouldn't have him doing any more D-rank missions with Team 7, and they couldn't go on them anyway seeing as how Naruto had put Sasuke Uchiha on the shelf with the butchering job he had done on Sasuke's arm. This was part of the arrangement made between Tsunade and Kakashi. Naruto was no longer considered a member of Team 7. It was a good idea, with Naruto having just destroyed Sasuke and Sakura in combat almost effortlessly, the team dynamics, what little there were in the first place, would have been screwed. She proposed to have him go solo and float between teams, either more experienced teams of Chunin and Junin to get field experience, or the younger genin teams to give him some experience in leading teams. This actually kind of worked out in Naruto's favor. For all of his want to get promoted, the fact was that while he was in Nei he was used primarily for solo missions, things that only had him worrying about his own back and what he had to do to survive. This would allow him to learn how to fight in conjunction with others. He needed to learn how to work in a team and how to keep his comrades alive when they were with him. He couldn't argue that he wasn't ready to lead a squad of ninja as a Junin yet, he knew that. So on the morning that our story picks up from, Naruto ambled his way through the streets of Konoha on his way to the Hokage Tower to get himself a mission. The looks he ended up getting from the civilians on his usual path were the usual looks of apathy and sneers that he usually got, but when Naruto turned his own eyes onto them they turned away from him. Naruto sighed as he drew closer to the tower. Upon entering he made his way to the office of Tsunade, which was filled with the other Konoha genin he had fought, minus Sasuke, all of their Junin sensei, and the genin team from Sunagaku. Naruto raised an eyebrow at all of the people in the room. He looked at Tsunade. So what do you got for me today, Ba-chan? Tsunade threw the paperweight on her desk at Naruto, who just ducked it with a smirk. She narrowed her eyes at him. Disrespectful brat, I called you here so that you could begin getting to work helping out with the surplus of missions that we have. She looked at all of the genin in the room. Things are still kind of shaky after the invasion, but we can't turn away any of the work that comes into us. Not only is the money necessary, but we need to keep up with the view that we are strong, so genin like all of you will be getting higher ranked missions more often. Tsunade motioned for Naruto to come forward. You will start off with your chunin duties today. You will be leading one of these teams on a C-ranked mission today. Seeing as you will be the highest ranked member on whatever squad you end up taking, you will be the leader. Naruto pointed at the Suna genin. So why are they here? And can I pick them? Tsunade nodded. You can pick them if that's what you want. Though they aren't really a team for a mission, more like they are the mission. Naruto thought to himself for a moment, okay, I'll go with the Suna kids. I don't really feel like fighting bandits or something right now anyway, so whatever I'm doing with them, I'll take that one. He turned to face them and motioned for them to follow him closer to the desk before he stopped in front of Tsunade. So what's the mission? Tsunade handed them a scroll from the C-ranked pile. The main reason that the Cage's children have been in Konoha for so long has been mostly as some sort of collateral while we begin talks for the treaty between our villages. Negotiations are firmly underway, so we are returning them to their village. You will escort them there and wait for Suna to finalize the treaty on their own side before you return with a scroll from them. He looked at her in confusion. This is C-ranked. Are you serious? It should at least be B. Oh well, whatever. Naruto scratched his head. So do I get a team for this or what? Tsunade shook her head. Naruto, they are a team. You plus them should be a match for pretty much anything that could attack you between here and there. Tsunade tossed Naruto a scroll that he caught wordlessly. Flying solo? Okay, I guess. Naruto pocketed the scroll and turned to his selected team. Alright, do you guys have everything you need for the mission, or do we need to square away some time to get you restocked before we leave? The siblings traded looks as Temari spoke up. We're ready to go whenever you are. When do we go, Naruto-san? Naruto cringed when she said his name. Just Naruto is fine, Temari. I'm not much for the honorifics. He scratched his head nervously. Alright, if you guys are all ready to go, then let's head on out. No sense in wasting time. I'm sure you're all sick of staying here. As the other teams lined up to get their own IGN, meant Naruto lead the Suna contingent out of the office and out towards the street. On their way out of the village, Naruto found that while the civilians didn't particularly like him due to his thorough dissection of the entire slew of genin the other day, the ninja higher in rank gave him some respect for it. As he walked towards the target gate, he got nods of acknowledgement from the chunin he found out on patrol. The junin out with their genin teams are just some of the ninja out in general. As he made his way to the western gate, the perennial gatekeepers, Azumo and Katetsu, got grins on their faces upon seeing Naruto and company make their way to the gate. Naruto walked up and revealed the mission scroll given to him by Tsunade. Chunin Naruto Uzumaki with a mission to Sunagaku alongside the Cage's children. Katetsu nodded and marked it down on the traffic ledger. The bandage-nosed shinobi chidingly elbowed Naruto. Hey kid, good stuff the other day at the stadium. You pretty much sleepwalked through all of those kids. Naruto shrugged as he wrote down his own signature on the page. Well, we couldn't use killing force on each other. I guess they were all holding back too, but they shouldn't have. Kami knows Sasuke didn't, for all of the good it did him. Naruto handed the papers back to the two chunin and called for the Suna genin to leave with him. As the two chunin watched him walk away from the village, Azumo chuckled. That kid's going to get promoted before us at this rate. Katetsu yawned as he went back inside their booth. I don't really mind too much. Let a kid with some ambition move up in rank, I'll be fine right here. Azumo's sweat dropped in response to his partner's comment. So does that mean that you want to watch a gate for the rest of your career? You are one lazy bastard. Kotetsu gave a small smirk. Hey, it beats actually working for a living, doesn't it? Due to the fact that everyone here was an active ninja, they took to jumping through the trees as their method of travel. Naruto, being bored as all get out, decided to make some small talk as they made their way out of the country. So how'd Konoha treat you guys? You all look fine if you ask me. Kankuro grumbled somewhat. We wouldn't have had to stay at all if someone didn't jump us after the fight with Gaara. Naruto let a smirk play on his lips. Well, I told you all exactly what I was going to do. You weren't going to just leave, so I had to knock you all out. It's not my fault that you didn't watch your backs. Kankuro still kept his eyes narrowed at him. I still can't believe we lost so easily. You just clubbed us over the back of the head without us even noticing. Grinning back at the paint-wearing ninja, Naruto responded, I am very sneaky, sir. He dropped the grin from his face. How far is it to Suna? I've never been before. This was a lie. He had been to Suna before, but he really wanted to cover up the stuff he did in Nae around the people that didn't need to know about it unless the knowledge was necessary. Tamari moved closer in their formation to speak to him. From Konoha, Suna is about 3 days away if we keep at this speed. Naruto nodded and turned to face them. All right, we'll go for as long as you can all stand to travel. Don't worry about me, just yourselves. I might be capable of getting all the way to Suna without sleep myself. Kankuro and Tamari blinked blankly at that. Gaara didn't have energy to burn like that. Though this kid did beat Gaara in his full transformation after all, it couldn't really be that far-fetched. Kankuro glanced back at Gaara and whispered to Naruto, Hey. Gaara says that you're like him. What exactly does that mean? Naruto looked back at him in a nonchalant manner. Oh, that. I have a biju sealed inside of me like him. Naruto took note of the looks of shock on their faces, minus Gaara. What? Did he not elaborate on what he meant when he said that? The two stunned siblings shook their heads. Tamari looked back at Gaara, who nodded in affirmation. She looked up at Naruto in confusion. Wait. Why don't you have any powers or transformations like Gaara? We probably wouldn't have even known if you two hadn't said anything. The blonde boy shrugged. I don't know. I can do some stuff with its chakra, but I don't really have any transformations or anything really scary like Gaara does to my knowledge. He then added under his breath, unless you count the trigger. Kankuro put his nerves behind him. This kid isn't like Gaara. He won't flat out kill us for no reason. Stop being so scared of him. He's just like me or Tamari. So, which one do you have, if I could ask? You know that Gaara has the Ikibi no Shukaku. Oh, I have the Kyuubi no Yoko in me. Naruto grinned at them all cheekily, but you shouldn't go around spreading that. It's an SCL secret in my village. No one my age knows about it. If you do, I might just have to pop up and kill you. No big deal. The mirth in his voice couldn't indicate if he was joking about that or not. The silence brought on by Naruto's proclamation was broken by Gaara of all people. How did you not end up like me? Naruto looked at Gaara dead in his eyes and saw that he was genuinely curious about it. Well, first of all, I ended up making contact with the Kyuubi personally and hammering out a contract of sorts between us. It can't possess me. I can use its chakra when I need to. I let it see, hear, and feel what I do. There's other stuff too, but that is some of the big stuff. Gaara blinked. I've never tried that before. Shukaku kind of just runs rampant in my mind. Even now it wants me to kill you to get even. Naruto grinned at him. I'm so glad you've thought better of trying that. Yeah, the contract wasn't my idea though, it was someone else's. And you say you can't even get into your head safely to make contact without Shukaku fighting for control. Your seal must suck. The siblings all looked at each other before Tamari spoke up. You know about seals? No. Naruto shook his head in the negative, but I was sealed by the Yondaime Hokage, who was the best. If I haven't heard of who did yours, then they must not be nearly as good. He then scratched his chin. That might be something to learn though. He got a serious look on his face, but in all seriousness, don't go around telling people that I contain the Kyuubi. I have enough crap to deal with at home with just the adults knowing. If the kids my age are going to know, I'm going to tell them my damn self so that no one can warp their opinions. I was supposed to be a weapon like Gaara, but I ended up getting out of it somehow. Gaara's curiosity was piqued further by Naruto's words. You got out of it? What do you mean? Naruto rubbed his head sheepishly. Well, I was used for serious stuff, a lot of cloak and dagger operations, until 4 years ago when I ended up getting caught. The ones that discovered me ended up doing something to make me into that daft, loud, orange-wearing kid that you met at first. Fighting Gaara pulled my old killer instinct out. I thank you for that, and here we are now. Kankuro raised an eyebrow. You don't seem too much like a weapon to me. His sister nodded in response. You just seem like a really strong ninja, a kid. Naruto wagged his eyebrows at her. I'm a sentient weapon, you could say. I don't like being all dreary when I don't have to be. When we're like this, no real fighting going on, I can be normal, well as normal as a ninja like me can be anyway. When the fighting starts, I can just turn on the side of me that's a killer. It's kind of weird to explain. Gaara looked at Naruto. Your teammate, the way you fought him in the stadium, I thought he was precious to you. You said you got strength from defending others and yet you had no problems hurting him. Chuckles came from Naruto as he contemplated Gaara's comment. Well, maybe, but I don't really like him, so it doesn't really count that much. What I told you was true, but it was more like for the whole village than just my team. I don't even like my team. You don't like your team? Tamari looked at him as if he was crazy. Then why are you on it? Why not get switched out? Naruto smiled. Well, seeing as how I'm currently doing this, it works out for me. Honestly, working with you guys so far has been more pleasant than my entire time on Team 7. No brooding spoiled pretty boy breathing down my neck, no sensei that would rather read than pay attention to what's going on, and no pink-haired fangirl with bipolar syndrome and a hair trigger right hand. Yep. Tamari-chan here is way more pleasant to be around as far as female company goes. Tamari blushed while Kankuro snorted. Yeah, sure, kid. Just trade the hair color and the fist for a giant metal fan and you've got Tamari. The girl in question looked back at her younger brother while clutching the fan on her back tightly. What was that, Kankuro? Could you repeat that for me? Kankuro rapidly shook his head while Naruto barked out a laugh. See, at least she gave you a warning. I usually didn't get those before Sakura tried to wail on me. Naruto noticed that Gaara had been staring at him for quite a while. What's wrong, Gaara? Do you need something? Gaara kept his eyes on Naruto. You are a very strange person, Naruto Uzumaki. Naruto grinned foxily at him. Well, I don't think you can talk, calling me strange. You look like you want to say something though. Gaara's eyes turned back ahead as he broke eye contact with Naruto. It is nothing, Uzumaki. Naruto didn't believe him but let it slide as he kept his group jumping through the trees. If nothing else, we should reach near the border before it gets too dark to proceed any further. A group of nods and his focus was on their direction. As the day winded to a close in Konohagakure, Tsunade was still at her desk, going through the most unnecessary necessity the every cage was stuck doing. Of course, I'm talking about paperwork. A knock at her door soon revealed Shizune. Tsunade-sama, Kakashi is here to see you. Tsunade sighed. Send him in. She flexed her wrist and hissed. Damn brat dragging me back here. I bet he just wanted to punish me with all of this writing on so many of these useless forms to cramp my wrist so I can't hit him anymore. Honestly, shouldn't I have an entire team of secretaries to handle all of the mundane crap? I am the Hokage after all. Shizune blinked. Note to self, find out if I actually should be looking for secretaries for things like that. A yell of her name from Tsunade brought the black-haired girl back to earth. Oh, I'm sending Kakashi in now, okay. Tsunade motioned with her hand and Shizune disappeared from the door, Kakashi appearing in her stead, with Sakura in tow. As they entered the room, Kakashi stood in front of Tsunade's desk. Hokage-sama, you wanted to speak to me personally about Team 7. Tsunade nodded. Yes, due to Naruto's promotion and as a part of the arrangement made in case he won the entire series of bouts against the Genin, I'm taking him off of Team 7 effective immediately. Kakashi's visible eye went wide. Hokage-sama, I'm aware that Naruto needs to work with others because of his new rank and everything, but why take him off of Team 7 completely? Tsunade shook her head. It's nothing that you've done, Kakashi. It's more along the lines of the team itself. She placed her chin on her hands. Do you really think that after the little show that Naruto and the Uchiha put on in the stadium things will ever be civil again? The look on Kakashi's face showed his faith in the matter. Naruto has shown growth in maturity in leaps and bounds ever since the Chunin exam. I honestly believe that he can coexist with Sasuke and Sakura. A smirk appeared on the face of the buxom Hokage. Kakashi, you worded that like it was Naruto who got smacked around the stadium. Just as quickly as it appeared, her smirk vanished. Sasuke was soundly beaten by Naruto, driven to the point that he felt the activation of Orochimaru's cursed seal was tolerable. You did warn him not to do so, did you not? Kakashi nodded. Yes, I have, along with using the Chidori against comrades, but it seems he disregarded both. Sakura felt very small all of a sudden as she saw Tsunade speaking with her sensei, as if she was out of place, and indeed she was. She wasn't even leaping to Sasuke's defense or anything until the Chidori was brought up, but sensei, I saw Sasuke-kun's arm. Sasuke may have tried to use Chidori, but what about Naruto? He did something to mangle Sasuke-kun's arm. Kakashi spoke up quickly before Tsunade could. Sakura, the Chidori is an I-Nation technique used for only one thing, to kill. Sasuke, by using that, was saying that he had no qualms against killing Naruto. Naruto simply channeled elemental wind chakra to his blade and cut through the Chidori. With that kind of attack, if he really wanted to, Naruto could have cleaved Sasuke in two whenever he wanted if Sasuke was using Chidori. He fought to simply subdue. Sasuke was going for Naruto's life. Chiming in at that point was Tsunade. Sasuke will heal within the next few weeks. Naruto didn't do anything permanent, but with him activating the cursed seal, I have to ask that you remain on simply D-ranked missions for the time being until I can get Jiraiya to look at it himself again. He left right after Naruto's matches and it will take some time to contact him again. Kakashi nodded. Yes, Tsunade-sama. What about Team 7? Tsunade sighed and turned towards the window. Well, with what has happened, I can't in good mind allow Naruto back onto your squad, at least not so soon. I'll find you a replacement in the meantime, and by the time Jiraiya gets here you should have someone for your team. Kakashi nodded. Of course. That was all I wished to speak about, Tsunade-sama. Come on, Sakura. The masked Junin led his female student out of the office. As they walked out of the tower, Sakura spoke up. What about Naruto, Kakashi-sensei? He isn't on the team anymore. Kakashi looked at the setting sun. No, I'm afraid he isn't. If he was, then he would be the superior officer to you and Sasuke would never accept that. His superiority complex would force him to fight any decision that Naruto would make in the field and hamper team effectiveness, and that's not even adding on to the fact that he would probably try to fight Naruto himself if he got the opportunity. No, this is for the best in this instance. Back on the trail to Suna, it was nightfall and Naruto halted progress for the evening to allow the others to rest. While sending out a clone to gather fish, Naruto had started a fire and had boiled some water for a few instant ramen cups. Hey, why not? While everyone ate, they all sat around the fire until finishing the meal. He looked at the siblings and tried talking to them again. So what happened to your sensei, the guy with the veil on his face? We didn't kill him, did we? Tamari shook her head. Baki sensei returned to Suna after the invasion failed. He was the one that found that our Fath, the cage was killed before the invasion ever even happened. Naruto looked at the others and found that neither Kankuro nor Gaara had much emotion about the matter. So what happened, if you don't mind me asking? Kankuro answered him. Orochimaru had infiltrated our village and had been masquerading as the cage for quite a while before the invasion. Naruto threw his ramen cup to the side. I knew about the invasion. I knew about the plan for Gaara and everything. Orochimaru had his shit planned for years. Kankuro scoffed at that. Well, if you knew, then why didn't you stop it or something? The grinning Chunin unnerved him. That's another secret that's even deeper than the whole Kyuubi thing. I will say that it's half of the reason that I ended up a loudmouth when the Chunin exam started. Again, I can't say thank you enough to Gaara for snapping me out of it. This confused Gaara as to why he was being thanked. Why thank me, Uzumaki? I tried to kill you and destroy your village. I don't understand. Naruto shook his chopsticks at Gaara chidingly before throwing them into the fire. But you didn't kill me or destroy anything, did you? All you ended up doing was giving me my fighter IQ back. That's why I'm grateful, because if you didn't do that, who knows how I might have ended up. I mean, did you see me beforehand? Naruto shivered. It gives me the creeps just thinking about it sometimes. That brought a round of laughs from the siblings minus Gaara. Tamari was still curious about some things though. Naruto, you say you're a host like Gaara. Well, how were you treated? Gaara had ins after him since he was 6 years old. Naruto thought to himself for a moment before speaking. Well, it was kind of like him, minus the I nations for the most part. It was mostly people treating me like crap until I up and disappeared for a while. I just stopped caring for a while and stayed out of public. When I got older, nothing really changed. Even now, I'm just now starting to get some respect in Konoha. Gaara looked at him. How did you take it? His blonde fellow container shrugged. I had a few ways. First of all, like I said, I just stayed out of public. Another reason is because I was always busy. When I was a kid, I always had something to do to occupy my time. The last reason is because eventually some people actually started treating me like a real person. That was probably a big reason why. Naruto looked up at the moon. Being acknowledged positively for being you is a powerful thing. When the people around you are just glad that you're alive, there's just something about that that just doesn't compare to most other things. Guys like me and Gaara can relate to that. He lowered his head and noticed that all 3 siblings were giving him their undivided attention. Sweat dropping because he really had nothing else to say, Naruto stood up. Well, you can all get some sleep. I'll stay up and keep watch first. Gaara blocked Naruto's way with his sand. Uzumaki, I will keep watch for the night. I cannot sleep anyway, so it isn't inconvenient to me. Naruto looked at Gaara and smiled at him. Sure thing, Gaara. Thanks a lot then. Alright, I'm going to go drain the lizard before I go to sleep. I'll be back in a flash. As Naruto walked away and Gaara left to find an area suitable for watching over the campsite for the night, Kankuro and Tamari were stunned. Kankuro looked at Gaara walking away. Did Gaara just volunteer for night watch? He never did that before. Tamari watched the direction Naruto went off in. I think it has to do with that Naruto guy. Gaara's been like this ever since he fought him, remember? He hasn't tried to or talked about killing anyone since then. As she watched him return to camp and pull out his sleeping things, she was more curious about the blonde Konoha ninja that had somehow calmed Gaara. The next couple of days found the group traveling from the woods to the desert with almost alarming transfer of landscape. The trip was pretty uneventful, with the exception of some dumb bandits that thought it would be a good idea to attack a group of ninjas. They took this opportunity to let Gaara let off some steam in the form of eradicating the lot of them in a wave of sand. Poor bastards never had a chance. As they traveled, they kept up the same routine as usual, with Naruto trying to engage them in conversations to get to know them better. With Kankuro, he pretty much let slide their introduction back before the Chunin exams and started off fresh. It didn't really take long for them to start hitting it off. Kankuro had a strange sense of humor, and when coupled with Naruto's dry wit and penchant for picking with people like Gaara, usually ending up with him getting thrown by an arm of sand by Gaara, much to Kankuro and strangely Gaara's amusement. Naruto took the time traveling with them to also flirt shamelessly with Temari. At first he simply took to answering her questions about how he lived and what he was used to doing as a ninja and asking her the same in turn, but that soon turned to him sidling up to her during breaks and randomly commenting on her good looks and how he'd like to take her to some place called Ichiraku whenever she came back to Konoha during their travels. She didn't use her fan to brain him for two reasons: because he did beat Gaara and then still had enough energy to capture them and jump into the fray of the invasion, so she didn't really feel like trying to incur his wrath. The other reason was because on the occasions she did try to swing at him, he dodged and then made comments on how he liked strong girls. Kankuro got a few laughs off of that, right until Temari realized that hitting Kankuro with her fan was no trouble at all. Naruto even got Gaara to talk sometimes, not very often, but he still got him to speak, and that was something. He usually compared Biju with Gaara, and inwardly bitched to Kyuubi about why the hell he couldn't get a cool defense like Gaara had. He was sick of getting his kicked. Anyway, the point is, Naruto was quickly getting close to the Suna Genin. The fact that he didn't rub the fact that he beat them in their faces helped exponentially. And now they were traveling through the desert, edging ever closer to Sunagakur. The setting sun was actually doing very little to soothe the heat on one blonde-haired ninja. Naruto wiped his brow once again under the hot sun. Kami, this desert, why the would people live somewhere so hot? This is ridiculous. Naruto looked back at the Suna kids who were smirking at his discomfort. I'll bet you're all loving this right now, aren't you? Kankuro snorted as he stifled his laughter. Yeah, definitely. You can run through 3 teams of genin like a hot knife through butter, but a little heat and humidity and you can't take it. Naruto gave him a half-hearted glare. Watch it, makeup boy. I'm really irritable out in this stupid heat. Kankuro growled at him. It's not makeup, damn it. It's war paint that. Naruto rolled his eyes. That you steal from your super hot sister. Kankuro finished his sentence. That I steal from my super hot sister. Kankuro blinked and retracted his statement. No. Wait. Take all of that back. A grinning Naruto looked at the puppeteer. What? The you steal makeup part, or the your sister is super hot part? Both. My sister isn't hot. Kankuro felt a glare from behind him from Temari and deadpanned a look at Naruto. Ah, damn you kid. Naruto chuckled and decided to save Kankuro from his fate. Yo Temari-chan, how close to Suna are we? I'm kind of on blind autopilot up here. Temari lowered her ill intent towards Kankuro and looked over at the leader of the makeshift squad. We should be right on top of the village any minute now. Right on cue, as they reached the top of a dune, a Miv dome-esque structure came into view, and here we are. Naruto let the others take the lead from this point on, as fighting a slew of pissed-off foreign ninja due to a misunderstanding didn't really appeal to him at the moment. As they arrived at the opening, he noticed the faint glares from the guards and rolled his eyes. Woohoo, trading one village's glares for another, and I can't even kick anyone's here or I'll start a war. They made their way into the city, leading Naruto along. Kankuro turned to get his attention. Hey, the first thing we should do is let Baki-sensei know we made it back. I'll go find him. You can go with Temari and Gaara to our house until I get sensei. Naruto shrugged, as the fact that there currently was no cage meant that he couldn't really go straight to his office and give him the information on the treaty, and the council wasn't just going to be called at the drop of a hat for something that wasn't an emergency. He decided that waiting was cool. The blonde foreigner nodded and followed Gaara and Temari as they made their way through Sunagakur to their home. Naruto eventually ignored the reaction that the citizens of Suna were having towards a Konoha shinobi in their village and took to a pastime that could draw his attention for the remainder of the trip, the watch Tamari walk and not get caught game. He had to admit, Jiraiya did teach him something useful besides Rasengan on their search for Tsunade. The ever-useful advice from the super pervert was, when caught peeking at a girl in the street, do not look away as if you weren't looking at her, make eye contact instead. Usually guys like Naruto and himself would end up staring at girls that were kunoichi, a side effect of living in a ninja village, and they could sense when they were being watched. Lying like you weren't looking makes it worse, but letting her know you were looking, just not letting her know what exactly you were looking at, is a very good way to get your looks in, and Naruto, being an old hand in espionage under Danzo, had a killer poker face. Tamari could tell he was looking at her, but the fact that whenever she looked back at him to call him a pervert he was already looking into her eyes ended up silencing her and making her quite flustered at his serious gaze. Naruto wasn't a pervert. He just had a healthy respect for the female condition. He was a growing young man just like anyone else, so what? Eventually that had to come to an end as they all arrived at the house of their family, and by house I mean big mansion. Naruto whistled as he walked through the gates and looked at the MIV structure. It was the same color as all of the other desert buildings in Suna. It was just the biggest damn house out of all of them by far. This is your house. You guys have got a big house. Tamari smirked as they made their way inside. We are the children of the Yondaime Cage. Where did you think we lived? Come on and let's find you a room. As they traveled to the upper level of the mansion, Naruto was confused. Wait, I thought I would end up getting a hotel or something when I got here. I don't want to impose on you guys like this, it isn't really fair. Tamari rolled her eyes while Gaara just stared at him. Uzumaki, I insist that you stay here. I won't accept anything else. Gaara then left Naruto and Tamari in the hall alone. Naruto turned to his fellow blonde and pointed off in the direction that Gaara went. Did he just try to be nice and tell me he was cool with me staying here? Tamari nodded as she kept leading him down the hall. Even when Naruto asked why, it's because of what you did. I think he likes talking with you. It didn't really happen much before he met you. I think he's spoken to you more than anyone else in this village. I'm okay with it too, I guess. Why? Naruto was looking around and realized this place was too rich for his blood. I did kind of get you all captured and all of that other stuff, you know. Tamari waved off his excuse. It was your job. I'm just glad you didn't kill us or anything. It was an invasion after all. Naruto grinned at her. I would never. Killing such a beautiful thing like you would have been madness for me to get over after the deed was done. Naruto once again ducked a swing of her fan that surprisingly didn't break anything in the hallway when she missed. Tamari placed the fan on her back again with the faint traces of a blush on her face. She honestly wasn't used to being flirted with at all. The entire time before this everyone had been too afraid of Gaara to even attempt to get close to her. And out of the blue here comes this kid that not only has the gall to try it, but who doesn't fear Gaara because he'd already beaten Gaara cleanly once before. She had to admit, it was kind of nice for a boy to talk about her like that, and it wasn't like he was bad looking. After ditching the orange jumpsuit he was far better looking than before, and the mysterious scar on his face didn't detract from said looks at all. They came to a stop in front of a door that Tamari opened for him. This will be your room for your stay. Naruto went inside and had to do a complete spin to fully take in the aesthetics of the room. This is my room. This is probably as big as my entire damn apartment. Does this room have its own bathroom? What the hell do you guys do with all of this space? Tamari had a humored smile on her lips. We're rich, so anything we want would be the correct answer to your question. Naruto chuckled and began setting his things by the bed. The rest of us are down the hall. If you need something, our rooms aren't that hard to find. Naruto nodded. Okay, I guess I'll just go to sleep tonight and worry about other stuff in the morning, like the scroll and all of that. No one will probably even get into gear about this until then anyway. Okay. Kankuro, or I will help you with that tomorrow. She watched as he walked into the bathroom and began splashing his face with water from the sink. Good night then, Naruto. He heard her and yelled out from the bathroom, "Good night, Tamari-chan." As the sounds of her shutting the door rang out through the room, Naruto sighed and shut off the water before returning to flop on the bed. As Tamari walked through the hall to reach her own room, she had to giggle when a familiar voice rang out shortly after she shut his door. "Oh Kami, even their beds crap all over mine. This mission is awesome." The next day Naruto met up with the Suna Council that, surprisingly, showed him more respect than he had received anywhere prior to this. However, he chalked it up more to the fact that he was something of an ambassador in this case. After that meeting, which mostly consisted of him sitting and listening to the old men bicker over how this should be taken, Baki urged him he wouldn't have to sit through something like that for the rest of his time in Suna, which brought a laugh from the boy. He and Baki eventually met up with Tamari, Kankuro, and Gaara at a training ground and found Tamari obliterating the desert scape. It was then that he was blindsided with a request from the fan-wielding girl. Naruto blinked incredulously. "You want me to what?" Tamari leaned against her fan, staring Naruto down. "I want to fight you, so come on." Naruto kept blinking at her. "You against me? Really? Why would you want to fight me?" She huffed at him and began to walk up on him to poke him in the chest. "I saw you using wind chakra and Fuden jutsu back in Konoha. I used them too, and I want to see who is better, me or you." Naruto looked to the others for help but only saw Baki and Kankuro looking anywhere but at them. "Tamari-chan, I'm not much for the casual sparring. When I spar, people get hurt, and my jutsu aren't really the probing type. I only have 2 jutsu right now that don't have the potential to kill you." Tamari glared at him. "So you think I can't take it? Alright, now we're definitely fighting. Get ready, Naruto." Naruto sighed and backed up to sit down in a stance. "Someone call this." Baki walked forward. "The fight will end when I say or when one of you surrenders. Ready?" He got nods from both Naruto and Tamari. "Hajime." Tamari wasted no time and whipped her fan out to send a miv gust at Naruto. Naruto immediately went on the move and tried closing the distance, but was forced to go serpentine in his movements so that he wasn't lifted clear off of the ground. Naruto drew closer and saw Tamari swing her fan at him in an effort to end the fight. Naruto brandished his sword and blocked, sliding slightly through the sand until he gained some footing. As she pushed against his sword, she realized that he wasn't budging. "Why are you so strong?" Naruto grinned at her. "Because it's more useful than being weak." Naruto pulled his sword away and caught her fan in one hand while sheathing his sword in the other. Tamari was marveling at the raw strength it took to hold her back. This moment of awe came back to bite her as Naruto swiftly disarmed her by grabbing onto her fan with both hands and swinging away with it to throw her off. As she slid through the sand and regained a standing position, she saw Naruto holding onto her fan, looking at her blankly. "You want to give up?" "I'm really not in a fighting mood right now." Tamari gritted her teeth in anger. "Stop underestimating me." She then charged in and tried her hand up close against him. Naruto sighed and threw the fan aside as the sandy blonde girl got ever closer. Tamari threw a series of punches that Naruto swiftly swatted aside. However, he didn't want to counter and injure her, so he stayed on the strictly defensive. Tamari was getting progressively angrier at her inability to injure Naruto. Apparently the guy that had been hitting on her for 3 days and the guy that she was currently in conflict with actually did exist in the same body at the same time. Seeing that during their short skirmish she had gotten her back to her fan, she broke off and picked it up, unfurling it with a smirk. "Now what are you going to do?" Naruto pointed at her fan. "You're going to be dead in like 5 seconds, just so you know." She looked at her fan to see a slow-burning explosive note attached to it and hurriedly threw it away just in time to see a small puff go off on her fan. As she turned back to Naruto, she had no time to react before she was on her back looking up at the sky with a kunai at her throat. She blinked and realized Naruto was pinning her down with a kunai at her throat, but, what? Naruto looked at Baki, who announced his victory, and he helped her up. She dusted herself off and went to retrieve her fan. It was a dud. Naruto nodded. Well, yeah, did you really think I was going to blow you and your fan up just for a spar? He took her fan and dusted off the soot from his note before handing it back. Tamari snatched it back heatedly and placed it on her back. You completely destroyed me, I never had a chance. She clenched her fists. I'm weaker than I thought I was. Naruto shook his head as they met back up with the others. It's not that you're weak, it's that I'm not a genin, hell I shouldn't even be a chunin. You're chunin level from what I saw during the exams, but I'm a hard guy to fight. Kankuro patted Tamari on the shoulder. I told you it wouldn't have been a good idea to fight him, why do you think I didn't? Tamari glared at him. Because you're a lazy bastard maybe. Kankuro frowned. No, this guy beat Gaara. We didn't have a chance against him, not yet anyway. I want to try, but I know that I'll lose if I do, so there's no need. Naruto scratched his head and tried to walk away. This is why I didn't want to spar. No matter how I handled it, I was going to hurt your feelings and I didn't want to do that. He turned back momentarily. I like hanging out with you guys. The idea of me doing nothing but spending time with Junin and other adults just because I can fight doesn't really work for me, so I don't want to squash everyone in my age group and make them feel inferior, but it's the only way I know how to train or fight, full blast. He gestured to the training ground. Even when I hold back it ends up like that. Turning back towards town he waved back. I'll get my stuff out tonight and get a room somewhere. My business here should be done within the week. He shunshined away, leaving Team Baki out on the training grounds in his wake. Roughly 30 minutes later, Naruto shut the door to the mansion to leave just in time for Tamari to grab him and drag him back inside by the back of his shirt. Kankuro and Baki sweat dropped at her display and went about their business. Tamari dragged Naruto up the stairs and back into his guest room before finally dropping him. Naruto stood up and shook himself off. Any particular reason you just dragged me through your house like I was your battle fan? Tamari crossed her arms and sat on his bed. You're not leaving like that. Not because of a simple spar. A quirked eyebrow from Naruto let her know his mindset on it. You were just pissed off at me about the fight and you still want me here. Tamari rolled her eyes. Duh, Naruto. I was mad, yes, but I had just lost decisively. What? Was I supposed to be happy that you kicked my? That's not a reason to want to kick you out, that would be petty, especially since I was the one that made you fight. Her eyes narrowed however, but you did humiliate me out there and you owe me for that. Naruto gripped his hair. Humiliated you? Who else saw it but your team and me? Her eyes softened after that as she looked at him with a smile. You owe me, and you're taking me out tonight. She stood and walked over to him, looking him in the eyes. Nothing big, just to get something to eat, but you will be paying. She walked out of his room but reappeared at the doorway. But it's not a date. With that she left him alone in the room. Naruto chuckled to himself. Now that's my kind of girl. I kick her and then she wants to date me because of it. That night Naruto had asked her where she wanted to go and she ended up choosing a simple diner. Nothing expensive or anything, it was kinder spur of the moment. The meal was spent with the two of them continuing to talk about their ninja lives. Tamari had a good time learning about the strange blonde and he simply had a blast enjoying the company of a girl that seemingly wanted to spend some time with him. Tamari folded her hands and set her chin on them. I watched the last couple of fights that you had. For some reason you really had it out for the Uchiha boy. What was that all about by the way? Naruto had set down the money for their meal on the check, I hate Oto Shinobi so much. Long story short, they were the ones that gave me the scar on my face among other things. I dislike them immensely, and Orochimaru's cronies with those damn seals on their bodies are the ones I hate the most. He paused to calm himself down. I didn't really like Sasuke that much anyway. There was always some kind of underlying animosity, but seeing him actually using that damn thing pissed me off so much, I couldn't take it. Naruto looked at her with a smirk on his face. Who uses something that an infamous S-rank nuke nin with crimes against humanity on them gives him anyway? That really isn't the smartest thing you could do. Temari laughed slightly. True. I thought he was a genius, wasn't he? Naruto laughed in return. Yeah, I guess, but they throw that term around a lot in Konoha, I swear. Every year another genius ends up rolling out of the academy and gets pegged as the second coming of the Yondaime Hokage or something. It's ridiculous. Temari had a smile on her face as their check and cash were taken by the waitress. Well, what about you? What does that make you? You're way better than anyone our age that I've ever met. Naruto shrugged in his seat. I wouldn't call myself a genius, that's for sure. I actually had to train my off to get what I've got, and I'm still nowhere where I should be. There are some dangerous people out in the world, and I've made some powerful enemies that I still need to prepare for. Temari put her hand on his and smiled at him. Well, I know you'll be ready when the time comes to fight. You're a strong person, Naruto. Naruto smiled back at her. Thank you, Temari-chan. That means a lot to me. After a short walk around the night-lit village, Naruto escorted the girl to her bedroom door and bid her goodnight, even getting a kiss on the cheek for his chivalry. Naruto smirked all the way back to his room where he sensed someone's presence. Flipping his lights on, he saw the youngest member of the household standing in the corner of the room waiting, Uzumaki. Naruto got over his surprise and returned the greeting. Hello, Gaara. What are you doing in here? What's up? Gaara stayed in his place as his eyes stuck on Naruto. How was your evening with my sister? Naruto felt the sweat roll down his back at the intent of Gaara's tone. He may have beaten him once before, but last time they weren't fighting in a desert either, so he didn't really feel like scrapping with him again. It was great. Temari-chan is awesome. We had a good time. Gaara nodded and made his way out of the room. Very good. And Uzumaki, if you hurt my sister I will kill you. Not Shukaku. Me. Naruto blinked as Gaara's presence left before a door down the hall shut. Did Gaara just pull the protective brother card on me? Naruto shook his head and started getting ready for bed. This mission is weird. The next day Naruto received the scroll from the council, with their offers to Konoha for a treaty. With the bulk of his mission completed, Naruto bid each of the siblings goodbye at the gate. He shook Gaara's hand, bumped fists with Kankuro, and got a hug and a kiss from Temari. That last one spurred him to a blush as he sputtered out a goodbye and turned to return to Konoha through the desert. Temari smirked at his reaction while Kankuro laughed heartily at the super strong kid getting so flustered. Naruto took off through the dunes to return to Konoha for his next IGN meant. Little did he know how important this next one would be to him personally. Naruto had cut a hellacious pace through the desert and was out of Kase no Kuni in one day. The trip through the forests of High no Kuni were much easier for him, thus his pace picked up and he stopped for the night only a few hours away from Konohagakure. The next morning he barreled into the village, dodging civilians, and took to the rooftops to arrive at the Hokage Tower swiftly so he could rest or get another mission before it got to be the afternoon. As he got close to the door he saw Shizune running all about the tower with a frantic look on her face. Raising an eyebrow at her behavior he tried to get her attention. Shizune-chan. You're moving kind of fast this morning, aren't you? He noticed that she looked somewhat fatigued. Is there something wrong? You look like you barely slept, if you even did at all last night. Shizune stopped and looked at him, eyes widening when she saw it was him, Naruto-kun. Thank goodness you're here. You got done fast. Whatever, Tsunade-sama needs you now. Shizune grabbed and shoved Naruto into her office and shut the door before he could even speak. He rubbed his arm. Damn Shizune-chan, grip. Naruto looked at Tsunade's desk to see her drinking sake and looking down at some kind of papers. Naruto fished in his pocket and walked up to her desk to place the scroll from Suna down. Tsunade's head snapped up as she had just noticed Naruto right then and her eyes lit up. Naruto. This once again confused him. Yes, me. Are you and Shizune feeling okay, Ba-chan? You never call me Naruto to my face and you're both freaking out about something. Tsunade grabbed Naruto by his cheeks and pulled him halfway over the desk, scaring the crap out of him. Tsunade shook him. I need you to go back up a team. Naruto looked confused. Now. Damn, I just got back. What is it? And who am I going to meet up with? Tsunade let go of him and sat down. I know it's sudden, but I sent out a team of genin to retrieve Sasuke Uchiha from a group of Odo ninjas sent to take him to Orochimaru. Naruto narrowed his eyes. Did he leave with them or did they kidnap him? Tsunade shrugged. We don't know, but either way we can't let Orochimaru have the Sharingan, that would be catastrophic for Konohagakure. She sighed and looked at him seriously. Naruto, I'm sorry to send you out so soon after you got back, but your next mission will be to give stance to the retrieval team of Chunin Shikamaru Nara, and his squad consisting of Genin Neji Hyuga, Kiba Inuzuka, Choji Akamichi, and Rock Lee. Naruto took on a stone-like visage and nodded. Hi Hokage-sama. Tsunade blinked in surprise. Pretty professional brat. Naruto didn't flinch. There's a time for being goofy, now isn't the time. I'll leave on your call. Tsunade nodded. Go, and hurry and catch up with them. Orochimaru wouldn't have sent anyone weak to bring Sasuke to him. I would send a team with you, but we don't have anyone on reserve right now. I'm sure you can tell due to such a high-profile retrieval team being made of genin and a newly promoted Chunin. She remembered something before he could exit. Naruto, wait. He turned in time to catch a bag with a few soldier pills in it. Take care of yourself, brat. Don't go overboard out there and help those kids get out alive. I'll send backup as soon as I can. Naruto saluted Tsunade with a smile and left the office and building in a hurry to rush to his former CLMate's aid. Naruto tore through the town at a breakneck pace, completely bypassing the gate altogether in a yellow and red blur. Sakura, who had been sitting under a tree nearby the gate ever since the retrieval team had left early that morning, had gotten a glimpse of the figure in red and yellow causing all of the ruckus throughout town, and Naruto. As he took to leaping through the trees, Naruto went off in the general direction of Ta no Kuni, hoping to quickly pick up a trail from either the retrieval team, or the squad of Odo ninja they were in pursuit of. Eventually he came upon a clearing that looked as if it had been the site of a small battle. He surmised that he had to be heading in the right direction, so he simply went on autopilot and prepared for battle as he raced to catch up. Choji was at the end of his rope. Taking 2 of his family's secret pills wasn't enough to finish this guy off, as even when he attempted to squash him with a full-on body press after he used Chobaika no Jutsu, super multi-size jutsu, the guy just let the strange marks on his body transform him into some kind of red demonic-looking creature with wild orange hair. Choji watched as the powerful ninja edged ever closer with a smirk on his face to end his life. Choji looked at the case of food pills he had brought, seeing the 2 empty slots and the one that had just 1 red pill inside, the red chili pill. When I take this, it should be enough to finish him off, but afterwards. Choji steeled himself and lifted the case close to him mouth to pop the pill. Jirobo's eyes widened as he saw that Choji had 1 more of those twice damned pills still on him, and as he prepared to rush him to kill him before he could take it, a sharp slicing feeling across his body sent him flying back as he watched his own blood fly through the air. Choji held back on taking the pill as he heard a Miv body hit the ground hard. Sitting up after much effort on his part, he saw a familiar face holding a bloody sword, and Naruto. Naruto looked up at him with his eyes full of fury, softening them upon seeing the state Choji was in. Choji, how are you feeling? Choji snapped out of his thoughts of how he was just saved. I'm fine, Naruto. But this guy is strong. I'm really glad you're here. I almost ended up taking the last of my pills to beat him, but now we can both take him out. Choji then slowly stood up. Naruto walked over to Choji. Do you have any soldier pills on you? Choji felt around on his person before he remembered. No, this guy caught us and drained our chakra at first before I broke off to fight him. I gave everyone else my pills, sorry. Naruto reached into a bag tied to his hip and tossed Choji a pill. Tsunade Bachan gave me a bag in case of something like this. Choji nodded and took the pill, noticeably perking up afterwards. Good, you're better. Now go and catch up to the others in case they need help. Choji widened his mouth in shock. Naruto, this guy is tough. We can take him out together and move on, it would be way easier. Naruto nodded. Yeah, but he broke off from his squad to fight you first, that means that the others with him are stronger. The others might need your help. I'll finish up here and catch up to the rest of you, I'm your backup after all. Now go, trust me. Naruto had a roaring smile on his face. Choji looked apprehensive for a moment before turning to head off in the direction of Shikamaru's squad. Naruto turned back to Jirobo, smile utterly vanishing from his face as he was hit with a wave of deja vu. Jirobo angrily stood up and wiped the blood dripping from the wound on his chest, glaring murder at Naruto. You pathetic trash. You think just because you replace the fat one that you can make a difference? You're all going to die. Naruto stayed staring at Jirobo. There was something that just wasn't hitting him at the moment. I wouldn't be calling anyone fat if I were you, Chubs. But there's something about you that is picking at my brain. Jirobo began slowly stalking Naruto down. All of you brats are going to die. The moment I activated Orochimaru-sama's cursed seal, your life was forfeit. Naruto's eyes slowly widened. Cursed seal. Cursed seal. Cursed seal kit. It's one of them. Kyuubi was buzzing with bloodlust at one of the orchestrators of Naruto's lost years. Naruto's eyes blazed with anger at Jirobo. Cursed seal. You're one of those 5 sons of bitches that cut me all up in Ta no Kuni 4 years ago. Jirobo looked at Naruto as if trying to remember a blonde kid with a scar on his face until finally realization hit. Jirobo laughed raucously as his memory was piqued. You're almost as much of a pipsqueak now as you were back then. Jirobo mocked Naruto's scar. That didn't heal too well, did it? He laughed loudly at his own little joke. I only saw you without your mask after it was mostly cut through, but that shock bright blonde hair and your short little brought the memory right back to me. Naruto smiled grimly. I'm glad you find it so funny. I'm glad your last thought can be one that you find pleasant, because I'm going to you up right now. Jirobo broke out in laughter. And how are you going to do that? You do remember what happened last time, don't you? There are quite a few differences between this time and last time. Naruto held up one finger. Last time you all had the drop on me and I was under pursuit. He held up a second finger. And last time it was 5 on -1. Naruto vanished from sight and slashes began appearing all over Jirobo's body, sending blood all over the place. Jirobo tried to make use of his MIV strength to make contact with Naruto to put him away with one clean shot, but in this case it was more like a person trying to focus on the squiggly line of light at the corner of their field of vision as Naruto was far too fast to be caught by one of the lumbering heavyweight's strikes. After getting kicked in the ribs and feeling what was left of his wind leave his body, Jirobo was huffing and puffing hard. This guy, Orochimaru-sama said, with this seal I would be unbeatable against ninja like this leaf trash. Naruto had a mental smirk going as he drew closer to Jirobo. I'm glad Choji softened this guy up so well. At this rate I won't even need to use any jutsu to win. How embering. Oh well, payback is a motherer. Jirobo had a fire re-lit under him as Naruto strode closer and put everything he had in one punch, that Naruto ended up cutting straight through with his wind-enhanced sword right up to the elbow, splitting the arm like a peeled banana. Jirobo howled in agony as Naruto continued to dice him up, cutting both of his Achilles tendons, sending the large boy to the ground in a bloody mess. Jirobo willed his one good limb to move before Naruto drove a sword through it, pinning it to the ground as he stomped on his chest hard, sending Jirobo sitting up somewhat, but this was just so Naruto could plant a nasty punt right under his chin that should have decapitated him or disconnected his neck from his spine had he not been cursed seal enhanced. Jirobo coughed up a glob of blood, and hacked painfully as Naruto pulled his sword out of Jirobo's arm and poised himself to deliver the final strike. Naruto stood over him and looked down with cold eyes. Any last words before I send you to get boned by the devil in hell? Jirobo had a wry look on his face, even through all of the blood and dirt covering him. He spit blood out to the side and looked up at Naruto. Yeah, you may have beaten me, but everyone else on my team is stronger than me, and they all have this curse mark just like me. Naruto stayed his hand for a moment as a strange gleam came into his eye. Your team wouldn't happen to have a pale kid with faggy lipstick, a redhead that curses every other word, and a guy with like 4 extra arms, would it? Jirobo was confused by his sudden change in tone. Yeah. It's the same team that expelled you from Odogakure 4 years ago. Skelch. Ching. Asterisk. Whoosh. Asterisk. Cue simple. Upbeat piano jaunt. Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. Yo. Naruto rushed rapidly through the trees to catch up with the retrieval team post-haste. As he leapt through the branches, a devilish smirk played on his lips and a manic gleam lay in his eyes as his fingers twitched excitedly to catch up with them again. Oh no, you didn't. Suka tried to play me. But you never paid me, never. Oh no, you didn't. Payback is a-coming. You will be running forever. Naruto's thoughts drifted to how the base of Orochimaru was in an uproar after Jiraiya's exit and how he was eventually discovered before he could make his own escape. Oh no, you didn't. Until I get my vengeance. I will never end this mayhem. Oh no, you didn't. I'm a leaf shinobi. You ain't got a prayer you owe me. Oh no, you didn't. He remembered the dogged pursuit by 4 different ninja dressed in Orochimaru look-alike purple belts and how eventually he was forced to stop and fight them. Despite their unique skill sets, he still had the upper hand easily over them all. Harmonic chorus. Oh no, you didn't. Oh no, you didn't. Oh no, you didn't. Oh no, you didn't. Didn't you? Oh no. You didn't pay me what you owe me. So now it's over for you. Papa 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 papa. Yeah. Papa 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 papa. Yo, check it out. Naruto then thought of how the white-haired guy with the bones as a weapon jumped in right as he was winning against all 4 of his pursuers. He willed them to activate their cursed seals and they began to overwhelm him. The white-haired guy even ended up shooting bones at him. He growled and gritted his teeth as he continued to run. Oh no, you didn't. First you tried to trap me. Then you bust a cap in my. Oh no, you didn't. Such humiliation would bring annihilation at last. He thoughtfully traced the scar over his eye and clenched his fist so hard that it drew blood. Oh no, you didn't. It will be delicious when I get vicious tomorrow. Oh no, you didn't. There's no second chances. You will do the dance of sorrow. Oh no, you didn't. Harmonic chorus. Oh no, you didn't. Oh no, you didn't. Oh no, you didn't. Oh no, you didn't. Didn't you? Oh no. You didn't pay me what you owe me. So now it's over for you. Papa 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 papa. What a fool. Papa 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 papa. All right, come on. Oh no, you didn't. Better watch your back, boy. Keep running. This ain't just a game. I'll never stop coming. I got my arsenal. I put out the call. And when I finish, y'all You'll be a rag doll. Naruto remembered a desperate retreat to Ta no Kuni's borders that had him perpetually plagued by ults from any combination of the 5 powered-up Odo ninja. The last of which almost ended up getting at least his right eye when the guy with the bones pulled out a blade from his body and slashed Naruto across the face deeply during the fight, only ending with him escaping due to a well-timed explosive tag, a lot of luck, and pumping the Kyuubi's chakra to his legs for hours until he collapsed in a pool of his own blood after crossing the border a decent distance, conveniently being the last cognizant thought he had as a member of NA. Fool tried to diss me. Now you're gonna wish you were dead. Oh no you didn't. After I deliver, your blood will be a river of red. Oh no you didn't. Better beware. When no one's there to defend you. Oh no you didn't. So many ways to kill. It's gonna be a thrill to end you. Naruto shivered in anticipation as he sensed multiple signatures up ahead and saw a lot of white webbing. Oh no you didn't. Harmonic chorus. Oh no you didn't. Oh no you didn't. Oh no you didn't. Oh no you didn't. Didn't you? Oh no. You didn't pay me what you owe me. So now it's over for you. Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. Oh no UD. Kyuubi chill the out. I'm trying to get my mind right before I start fighting again. Naruto had his hands on his head trying to shake out the song. Kyuubi sheepishly stopped singing within Naruto's mindscape. Sorry kid, but I've wanted this just as badly as you have for just as long. How lucky you are that this ended up being conveniently dropped into your lap. You need to give that old hag a kiss or a bottle of her blasted alcohol when you get back to Konoha for this one. Naruto saw Neji and his opponent up above him in the trees, conveniently being the guy with 6 arms. Neji retreated to the ground where he began to throw gold-colored weapons at Neji who was using Kaden to defend against them. As Neji rotated and avoided the weapons Naruto snuck around the battlefield, Neji is fine. As long as this guy is messing with him with his little punk throwing knives then I can just kill him and be done with it. Naruto skulked to the upper levels of the forest while the fight continued down below. By now a giant spider had been summoned and was producing tons of tiny little spiders to wrap Neji in webbing, but he fought them all off with Hake Hyaku Nuhachi Sho, 8 trigrams 128 palms. Naruto saw the black marks that had been spread across Kidomaru's body for quite some time as he stepped his game up and decided now was as good a time as any to finish him. Naruto pulled out a kunai and threw it at Kidomaru before pushing his own hands together. Futen, Ripusho, Wind Release, Violent Wind Palm. The added boost from the wind jutsu sent the high-speed weapon straight into the base of Kidomaru's skull with a dull wet thunk noise, buried up to the ring. Kidomaru's confident smirk turned to a death rattle as the markings from his cursed seal receded and he fell from his place in the trees lifelessly. Naruto grinned to himself and punched the air in victory as he whispered, boom. Headshot. Neji breathed a sigh of relief as he watched Kidomaru's corpse drop before he deactivated his Byakugan. You can come out Naruto, I saw you while we were fighting. I didn't think you would sneak up on someone that strong though. Due to deactivating his all-seeing eyes Neji never saw Naruto suddenly appear from his blind spot when just a second sooner he had been in front of him. I am afraid that you are underestimating the sneakiness sir. Naruto dropped from the canopy, frightening the genius, to find Neji not very worse for wear. Naruto smirked at Neji as they walked closer. Thanks for holding his attention. Have you been fighting long? Neji recollected himself and shook his head. No, I don't think we're too far behind either. I assume you defeated Choji's opponent for us when you let him go after us. Naruto motioned for Neji to follow him as they took off into the woods again to give chase to their comrades. Naruto and Neji landed with Shikamaru and Choji looking at their 2 opponents. Naruto looked over at the gritted teeth on the face of Shikamaru. What happened? Shikamaru wasn't surprised to see Naruto as Choji told him Naruto had freed him up from his own fight. Kiba, he and one of the Odo guys went over the cliff into the water. Naruto nodded. Neji, Go find Kiba and help him out. He and Akamaru wouldn't die off of something so simple. Follow the river. Neji nodded and jumped off. Shikamaru breathed a slight sigh of relief. Okay, but another guy showed up and took the barrel holding Sasuke away. Rock Lee was fast enough to get away and give chase. Naruto raised an eyebrow, white hair. Weird marks above his brow. After blinking for a few seconds, Shikamaru nodded. Yeah. How did you know? Naruto chuckled. I'm just good like that. Tayuya was getting upset with all of the talk going on. Hey. What are you three suckers doing over there? Naruto cleaned out his ears. Wow. Her mouth got even dirtier over the last couple of years. Tayuya squinted at the new arrival. Her mental capacities were quicker than Jirobo, and if you are one of Orochimaru's elite bodyguards, you tend to remember the people that end up taking it to you in a fight. She raised her finger and pointed at him with a look of fury on her face. You spying son of a bitch. Why the air you here? Naruto grinned at her darkly. Aside from trying to get my payback on yours, I'm backing these guys up. Unlucky you. You backed the wrong horse when it came to Orochimaru. Now I think I'd pay you back for the shit all of us tried on me back in the day, but your bony friend is my real issue. Tayuya shook in fright before stealing her resolve. None of you Konoha shit stains are getting past me. Tayuya began playing her flute. Naruto noticed Choji and Shikamaru beginning to fall under it and he rushed her quickly. With a shrill tweet of the air in her lungs rushing into the flute following a punch to the body, Naruto began battering Tayuya with savage taijutsu combinations. She was no slouch up close, being one of Orochimaru's elites, but Naruto was too fast and too strong for her to take on without her seal, and he wasn't giving her a chance to activate it with the ferocity of his attack. He battered her swiftly anywhere he could hit her. He fought furiously due to the fact that he knew how dangerous her genjutsu could be and that the others couldn't break them as easily as he could. After all, who else had a demon with near infinite power inside them to help break illusions? Naruto eventually snatched the flute from her hands and backhanded her to the ground. Tayuya tried to rise quickly but went nose to edge with Naruto's blade. She looked up into his eyes. If I even feel your chakra start to spike to use that ing seal, I'm gonna start cutting stuff off. Chill out. Tayuya glared up at him. Does this make you feel like a man, you blonde-haired? Do you like what you're doing to us? A slightly chilling glance from Naruto made her subconsciously shiver. Well, considering the events that preceded it, I would think that sweet vengeance would be necessary. Luckily for you, I need something from your team and you're lucky enough to be the one chosen for it. Naruto grinned mischievously at her. Prisoner says what? Tayuya looked confused. Wah. Naruto slapped her hard across the back of her head with the blunt side of his sword and pulled out some ninja wire. He quickly hogtied her tightly and turned to Shikamaru and Choji. Take her back to Konoha and get her locked up. I'll keep going and get Rock Lee out of his situation. The guy he's chasing is stronger than all of these other guys combined. Naruto then stopped and looked at him sheepishly. Sorry. I'm kind of running your show here. You're the leader of this squad and everything. Shikamaru and Choji walked over with Choji hoisting Tayuya's unconscious body over his shoulder. Shikamaru chuckled. Well, you do technically have seniority over me, even if it is only by like a week or two, and you're the strongest out of all of us. You go and finish the mission. Neji will find Kiba and help him, and we'll take her back to Konoha. Naruto saluted Shikamaru and jumped off, heading towards the border of Hai no Kuni and Ta no Kuni once more. Naruto stopped in a clearing in the forest where he saw Lee doing pretty well against Kimimaro until Kimimaro started shredding him with his rib bones. As Kimimaro moved in to finish off Lee, he was forced to jump back after a slash from Naruto. Naruto stood protectively in front of Rock Lee with his sword drawn. It looks like you're still the best one out of all of them. The rest of them didn't dodge my first attacks. Kimimaro scoffed at Naruto. Don't compare me to the trash that preceded you. I am Orochimaru-sama's former choice for a vessel. Naruto snickered. Former choice. What happened? Did he come a little too hard for you and rupture your rectal cavity one night or something? Kimamaro's eye twitched as Rock Lee stood back up. It is good to see you, Naruto-kun. This opponent is most vexing to combat. Naruto looked behind him and smiled slightly. Hey fuzzy eyebrows, good to see you up and about again. Naruto noticed a broken barrel at the edge of the field. Lee, where is Sasuke? Lee frowned at Naruto's last sentence. That is what I find truly strange, Naruto-kun. Sasuke-kun emerged from the barrel not too long ago and then started laughing most unyouthfully. When I thought he would turn back to Konoha, he just kept going out towards the border. That's just great, Naruto. Ah well, even if Sasuke pulls that stupid seal out, Rock Lee can beat him, I'm sure of it. Naruto palmed his forehead and slid his hand down his face. Rock Lee, go get Sasuke. I'll fight this guy. He and I have a bone to pick with each other anyway, no pun intended. Go stop Sasuke by any means necessary, go. Asu. Rock Lee saluted Naruto and took off into the forest. Naruto turned back to Kimimaro, who looked at Naruto in recollection. I remember you. You are the vermin from Konoha that was discovered trespassing in Orochimaru-sama's lair years ago. I will now rectify my mistake of not finishing you off as my last act for Orochimaru-sama before my life is over. Naruto looked at him thoughtfully. You're dying, and killing me is the last thing that you want to do before you go. So be it. I owe you for what you did to my face and my body 4 years ago. I killed 2 of the others, captured 1, and the other is probably being killed by the others as we speak. I still wish I could take a swing at that cross-dressing piece of crap. Kimimaro pulled a bone sword from his arm and held it out in a stance. You think that I care that you could kill those other useless pawns? Orochimaru-sama has no need for weak tools. Naruto drew his own sword and had to get one last jibe in before the fight started. Well then I guess he won't be missing you too much, because if losing to me makes you weak, then you're going to be considered a weak pawn soon enough. Kimimaro narrowed his eyes and rushed in, showing Naruto his speed for the first time in years, coming in with sudden thrusts and slashes. The two traded blade strikes, with Kimimaro's being faster and more precise in jabbing, and Naruto's being flowing, moving from swing to a block, dodge, or parry like water. Kimimaro simply slipped out of the way of Naruto's blade and came back with his own attacks. The two couldn't seem to cut the other in the fracas of their movements. Kimimaro gripped his sword tightly. He's still just as fluid with his sword as he was back then. He looked at his weapon of choice. I hope Tsubaki no Mai, Dance of the Camellia, is enough to defeat him. Naruto shifted his own sword around in his hands to loosen up. Quickly sheathing his sword, he forms am of Kage Bunshin that then draw their swords. The original Naruto draws his own and points it at Kimimaro. I'm trying to shy away from the strategy of just swarming my enemies with Kage Bunshin, but for you, I'll go with the old strategy. In my mind there is no such thing as overkill. Naruto signals his copies forward to engage Kimimaro at once. He valiantly fended off Naruto's multiple clones, dispelling a few, but mostly when it came to this jutsu Naruto knew they were disposable, so a few clones were nothing, he could just keep on spamming them indefinitely. Eventually Naruto's Kage Bunshin ended up disarming Kimimaro and they quickly swarmed him before popping sounds rang out in rapid succession. As the clones backed away, Naruto saw that Kimimaro had exposed sharp points from his palms, shoulders, knees, and elbows. Naruto signaled his Kage Bunshin to try and attack again, but with this new tactic from Kimimaro, Naruto was sending them into a buzzsaw. Kimimaro drifted through them all. Every movement around the bodies he made seemed to cut into them, even when it looked like he wasn't trying. Simply running while using this technique seemed treacherous to his foes. Naruto noticed the last of the Bunshin getting dispelled and he readied his own body for combat. Kimimaro came in spinning wildly with his sharp spines. Naruto had to dodge for his life to avoid a deadly whirling dervish from Kimimaro. Naruto kicked him in his body, which was wide open during his ult, and began attempting to slash at Kimimaro in response to his most recent dance. Kimimaro kept out of Naruto's reach, showing that he was the better man in close-range combat. Naruto knew from the last time that they fought that even though Kimimaro had an absurd amount of support, he far outclassed Naruto with hand-to-hand combat. This was sort of a problem for Naruto. He was a close to mid-range specialist, and that just wouldn't do against Kimimaro, who wouldn't be easy to beat in close. Naruto stormed back in as did Kimimaro. Kimimaro attempted a vicious sweep, the knee bone sticking out to try and cut Naruto off at his kneecaps. Naruto brought his blade down to block and ended up having to jump back and avoid the other spikes sticking from his enemy's body. Kimimaro kept spinning low as he moved closer to Naruto at a ridiculous speed for being so close to the ground. Naruto eventually timed his spins and hit Kimimaro in his exposed head with a sick low dropkick that snapped Kimimaro's head back hard, sending him sprawling out on the dirt and gr. Naruto took advantage of his situation and kicked up to his feet from his back to an absurdly high height thanks to the use of chakra to enhance his already considerable strength to finish Kimimaro with a vicious double stomp to his prone frame from above. Naruto's feet were caught just inches from contact of crushing Kimimaro's rib cage by his rib cage. Naruto found one of his feet stuck in the extended rib cage of the bone-wielding shinobi. Naruto tried to pull his leg free and ended up making eye contact with him. Kimimaro looked up at him blankly. Karamatsu no Mai, Dance of the Larch. Kimimaro latched onto Naruto's leg with his arms as well and rolled over sharply. Naruto gritted his teeth as a pop sound, signifying an injury to his ankle, rang out in both his and Kimimaro's ears. Naruto rolled away after freeing his limp ankle, and Kimimaro followed him, rolling also, only with even more sharp spines protruding from his body like a human combine harvester, ripping up ground with every inch that he rolled. Naruto couldn't stand up with his ankle utterly dislocated, and Kimimaro was dead set on rolling him over. Naruto, in a last-ditch effort to create some space, brandished his sword and stabbed it into the ground between himself and Kimimaro, who managed to get his bones tangled into the blades. Naruto used this time to roll away quickly and realign his ankle into place with a quick snap, letting out a silent yell as he allowed the bone to reset with not a sound as Kyuubi's regenerative properties worked their miracle powers on quickly making his leg usable. Naruto stood just as Kimimaro freed his spikes from Naruto's sword by retracting them. Naruto pointed at Kimimaro heatedly. "You are a bastard, you know that. With your bones, and your stupid bone defense crap." Even though he sounded angry, Naruto's face showed no anger, only focus and determination on the task at hand, which impressed Orochimaru's loyal soldier. Lifting his hands up at Naruto, he fired bones from his fingertips. Naruto had dropped his sword to make a hasty escape earlier, so he pulled shuriken and a kunai from his pouch. He deflected a few bones with the shuriken and used the kunai in his hand to bat away the rest in a risky move. Naruto rushed at Kimimaro, kunai in his grip, to attack. Kimimaro was once again shocked by the vicious nature of Naruto's attack. Naruto swiped at Kimimaro furiously, routinely switching hands and rolling the weapon in his fingers to attack from awkward angles. Naruto brought up a random axe kick that collided down on Kimimaro's shoulder. Naruto then drew another kunai and placed it between his toes, securing it double tightly under his sandal strap as he now began using his hands and feet to slash at the last of the Kagaya clan. The Oto elite was hard-pressed to defend against such an unorthodox attack, and just when Kimimaro thought he had seen the full extent of Naruto's skill, he pulled out a third kunai and tossed it high into the air. While he was distracted, Naruto ended up getting a few rapid cuts on his person, on his face and his chest. Due to his bone density, they were pretty shallow, but this meant that Kimimaro was slowly losing ground in the fight. "This is just as dangerous as one of my dances. The kunai Naruto tossed fell back to the earth, spinning dangerously until Naruto's manic attack incorporated it into his ult. His spastic punching and kicking and frantic movements kept the kunai in the air, still spinning and targeting Kimimaro. He now had Naruto using kunai in his hands and on one foot and had another as a wild card that he always had to look out for in the air. Naruto made an up slash at Kimimaro, forcing him to bridge back deeply. Naruto got a grin on his face as he took advantage once more and jumped into the air, rotating the kunai in his foot and catching the other that was in the air in his toes in his other foot, both pointing down in a stabbing motion. Naruto stabbed one foot into his chest, then the other, soon Naruto was literally stomping a mudhole in Kimimaro's chest. Eventually believing he had done enough with that attack, Naruto jumped off of his chest and reholstered the bloody kunai in his hand and between his feet. Looking over at Kimimaro, who was still standing, albeit bridged backwards, but standing regardless. Kimimaro leaned back up to reveal that Naruto had carved up his chest ruthlessly, with the majority of the puncture wounds and gashes going straight through to his ribs. That was a very deadly attack you used. I dare say if it was anyone but myself that you used it on, this fight would be over, but my Kekkei Genkai allows me to harden my bones, as you can tell, among other things, and you didn't slip any attacks under my ribs. Kimimaro let the black marks from his cursed seal on his collarbone spread all along his body. However, I'm just getting started, Konoha trash. I haven't even begun to reveal my true power. Naruto chuckled lightly as he let a red aura envelop him. You know, Bone Guy, I honestly have wanted to fight you all and possibly kill you ever since I got my memory back, you in particular, ever since I realized that you and those other teams were the main catalyst to how my life and skills went straight down the toilet almost forever. If you had never injured me so heavily upon my retreat from Oto, who knows how I'd be living right now, but that is not the point right now. Naruto allowed a shroud to envelop his body, forming a fox outline as his features became more feral. You, whether you know it or not, are a loose end to my past life that needs to be tied up. And I can think of no better way than to fight you and kill you myself. Naruto crouched down in a low mantis stance, showing his claws on his extended two fingers prominently. Come on, albino boy, show me what you've got, and don't underestimate me, it might be the death of you. He finished with a feral grin baring his fangs.